Welcome to the Apartment Guys, where we dive deep into all things multifamily investing. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower real estate investors to reach their highest potential. Each week, host Tate Siemer interviews high-level guests from all over the industry who are sure to bring valuable, actionable ideas that will propel your career to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, you are in the right place. And now your host, the Apartment Guy, Tate Siemer.
Welcome back, everybody. It is a great day at the Apartment Guys. I hope it's a great day wherever you are today. And I am thrilled to have Mauricio Roque with me today. And we're going to talk about his story and the importance of persistence. And I hope that you get a lot out of this because I think you're going to be pretty inspired by this. Mauricio and I have pretty similar stories in that we really just got our first big deals done this year. And by big deals, I mean larger unit count deals. And both of us closed in March on big deals. And we both had bigger deals that were shut down by COVID, and our financing, and at least in our case, it was financing, got shut down by COVID. So Mauricio, first of all, welcome to the show. I'm really stoked to have you, man.
Thank you for having me, Tate. I'm a big fan of the show. It's truly an honor being here.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. That means a lot. So yeah, let me just share a little bit about you as in kind of your background. You're a professional real estate agent in Southern California with over 7 years of experience helping families buy, sell, or invest in real estate. So you basically have been doing the traditional realtor thing there in Southern Cal, right?
Yes, that's right. For about 7 years, almost 8 years now. I love it. I mean, it's a great career. It gives you a taste of what being self-employed means, but at the same time, it's also extremely time consuming. I mean, you can make some serious money, especially here in SoCal.
Sure.
But you have to kiss your weekends goodbye, basically.
Yeah. And it's a paycheck, right? It can be a very good paycheck, but it's still trading your time and effort for money. And you're not necessarily growing wealth or establishing cash flow that's going to come at you residually, right?
Exactly. And that was probably one of the main reasons that my wife and I started looking into other streams of income, because as you say, sometimes the checks are very good. And it's not just the checks, it's the sensation. You give a family the keys to their first home. It's an incredible feeling. Everyone's happy. You know, you've changed everything for them, but you go back home and the next day you're unemployed again.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Right. You have to start all over again. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and one of my dirty little secrets that I don't share with a lot of people is that I actually have my realtor license myself.
Oh, perfect.
It's kind of a remnant from a past life that I had when my partner, Carl York, and I got started in the single family space and flipped houses and were in on that game for 8 years or so. And so I had my license to do that and still have to use it once in a while. But nothing, I will say that for those of you listening and maybe thinking about getting your license and thinking about multifamily investing, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that being a realtor and being a multifamily investor are two totally different things and have very, very little overlap in the way of skill set or activity set. And so if you go out and, take the courses and learn how to get your license, learn how to become a realtor and get good at it, that's great. And you could be very, very successful. And I'm not discouraging you to do that, but you're not preparing yourself to be an investor, at least, especially in the commercial multifamily world, because you're in a residential space. And so the lenders you're dealing with are all different. The loan programs are different. The valuation process is different. So would you agree with that, Mauricio, in general?
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's very different. You can approach a broker and you can tell a broker, I've sold 300 homes, and he will say, how many buildings have you sold? It's a completely different animal. It's same with lending, same with appraisals, same with the approach with tenants. I mean, everything is completely different. I would say that the biggest difference is probably that in real estate, in the traditional real estate, residential real estate, you do everything yourself. I mean, you can leverage a transaction coordinator, you can leverage your escrow person, but you do everything yourself. You go out there, you knock on doors, you go get the business. In multifamily, it's a team effort. If you don't have a solid team, if you don't have solid partners, it doesn't matter if you have $1 million in your pocket. If you're trying to buy something where you need a loan, the seller will most likely go with someone who has a stronger team.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say that all the time on this podcast. It's such a team sport. And if you are a solopreneur, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I really truly don't know anyone in this space that is like mega successful that doesn't have a team. Now, I know somebody that doesn't have partners inside of his core company, right? But he partners on deals with different partners, and he also has key employees, management, et cetera, assistants that make his team up, right?
Yeah, but that's probably someone also that started a while back. I mean,
yes.
If someone is looking to start now, it's very difficult. I mean, if you started before it became so competitive, I'm sure you could have probably done it on your own or maybe with one partner. But nowadays, you really need to leverage each other's efforts and skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. And one of the benefits of this space is leverage, right? You're leveraging other people's skills, other people's money, other people's time. You're leveraging a little bit of cash against a whole bunch of cash, and that you're raising, on a $10 million deal, you're maybe raising 3.5 million or something like that. So you're taking that 3.5, leveraging it against a $10 million asset, and then you can leverage that and force appreciation, and you're off to the races.
And one of the things that another, I would say, big difference between residential and multifamily is the valuations, because in residential, you have a house in the market and the house down the street takes a price cut, and it affects your value. Versus in multifamily is the performance of the asset or the rents, the income. That's the biggest parameter to value the properties. And that's something that I really enjoyed. It really attracted me, because it depended on the team's effort and the business itself versus what the market does.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of speculation and a lot of variables out of the equation when you and it's a beautiful thing, because you can really pinpoint values in your underwriting, and pinpoint pro forma values in your underwriting so much more accurately when it's just a math equation. And all you need to know is the market cap rate. And we're not going to go into cap rates today, but if you know that market cap rate's your big variable, and then it's just a math equation with your net operating income and your overall value. So
exactly. And if you have good partners, good teams, or even good mentors, good people to talk to, then you can send that information to others for review. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I love the most, is that people are willing to help you in this space versus, and I don't mean to keep going back to residential, but if I tell one of my buddies, hey, I think that the guy down the street is thinking about selling, guess who's going to be at his house asking for the sale? Right. Probably my friend. Right. Versus here, you can actually ask for help, and there's a lot of help available.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, so I'll bring this up at the end again, but if somebody is looking for help and wanted to reach out to you, Mauricio, what's the best way for people to reach you?
The best way, or the easiest way, would be our website, which is brickstoneinvestmentgroup.com. I have all my personal information, cell phone, email, and also I'm pretty big on social media, so Facebook or Instagram.
And it was Brickstone
Investment Group.
Investmentgroup.com.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Got it. All right. So right around 2019 was when you did took your first step into the real estate investing world. How did that happen? Run us through that.
Yeah, so I've been looking for something. I wanted to find a way to bring some type of passive income, and I wanted it to find it through real estate. I didn't want to do something different. I didn't want to get into stocks or sell a weird product or anything like that. I knew real estate. I believe in real estate. I love real estate. I just couldn't find the right way. So after one of my clients, I was working with them and helping them find a smaller investment. And when I met them, I remember my friend said, "Hey, Mauricio, did you see that building down the street, the white one that was like 2, 3 stories, like 10 units or so?" I said, "Yes, why?" He said, "Well, you should get your commercial license because that's what we want in the future." And we went on with the conversation, nothing major, but it really stuck with me. I don't know if that's ever happened to you where someone says this one phrase, they don't mean it, but it's so significant. It makes such a big impact. I couldn't sleep for days and I just kept thinking, how do I get my commercial license? Is it worth it? And after doing a lot of research, I ended up attending a multifamily conference. And once I understood the concept of syndication, that I could be part owner of a 30, 40, 50 unit building, leveraging each other's effort, then I couldn't go back to the way things were before after having that information.
What conference was that?
That was Brad Sumrock's event in 2019.
Yeah, nice. So my first multifamily event was spring of 18. And summer of 19 was when I went to Dealmaker Live at Michael Blanc's big event.
Summer 19?
Yeah. Summer of 19 was Dealmaker Live. And I met one of my two current partners there, Chelsea Garber. I met her at that Dealmaker Live. I'll tell you what, I've said this before, like go to these events, guys, like go to these national conferences. They are game changing. You just got to show up and do your thing, be yourself, be charming and happy and driven and show up and just be a sponge, absorb as much as you can and ask good questions and, see who you can help. Like that's always my perspective when I'm going into these events is like, how can I help and serve other people through this? And knowing that that's really selfishly like the best way for me to get and the fastest way for me to get what I want is to help other people get what they want. So anyway, little soapbox right there for you listeners. Go to these conferences. Joe Fairless's is coming. I don't get paid to mention any of these. But Joe Fairless's is coming up in February.
Yeah. I'm going to that one. And the reason I asked about 2019 is because after I came back from that event, I told my wife about the business and I told her that I have found a way that we could spend more time together. And what we started doing is listening to podcasts together. And we got tickets to Michael Blanc's event, Dealmaker Live in 2019. So we were there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And after that, that was a game changer for us because we were both there. My wife was networking with everyone. And after that, we just went full beast mode on multifamily.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, Brian Briscoe was there, and Melanie McDonald, all these friends that are now very successful. They were all what I call class 2019.
Yeah, it's so cool. Totally. That was like a who's who of multifamily people. There were a lot of big names there. Did you go to this year's Dealmaker Live?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I flew out to Texas. I was actually interviewed by Michael Blanc on the last day about the first deal and how tough it was to get.
Yeah. And look, that's big. That's cool. That's big time right there. Michael Blanc's big, and being interviewed by him is really cool. That's a fun thing for you.
Oh yeah, I wasn't expecting it at all, but I hope that people who listened, I hope it helped because it is an incredible business. I don't think there's anything like it, but it's also difficult to start.
Yep. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So what was your first deal? The one you did with your client there?
Oh, this was just a smaller triplex that we were working on
Okay.
here in Southern California. I
Okay.
helped them get it. And after that, I mean, their words kept resonating with me. And I had to start looking for something
Go
else.
bigger.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. And then after Dealmaker Live, I realized all the numbers, everything came together. And I realized, why should I buy 3 units when I can buy 30 or 40 or 50?
Or
And
300, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's
Yeah.
what we started pursuing.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. So right there, listeners, like you just heard Mauricio's mindset shift, like right in front of you, right? He just told you exactly how his mindset shifted. And
Completely.
for him, it was a client suggesting that, hey, this is in the future, we're going to go big. Like we're going to do one of these big ones in the future. And that lit a fire in Mauricio, and he never looked back. Like, and now you're all in, going gangbusters and are all in on multifamily. I love it. So side note, just so I know, are you still to this day, do you still do traditional real estate realtor stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. In fact, I'm doing a little bit more these days because right now it's the holiday season. It's a little bit difficult to raise funds, or even in the commercial space, people take their foot off the pedal for a little bit. So I'm trying to pick up some deals so I can resume everything back and start next year.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So let's talk about your first deal. Well, let's talk about the deal first. Before we do that, let's talk about the deal that COVID blew up. Walk us through that one.
Yeah, so that one, to make a long story short, after spending 6 months looking in a different market on my own, I started looking at a different place in the Midwest. I found a deal. I was able to get an offer accepted on March 3rd of 2020. How I got it accepted is I flew out there. I called the broker. He said, look, we like your offer, but you've never seen the property. No one in your team has seen it. I said, what about my property manager? He says, yes, but no decision maker has seen the property. So I called them back, and a couple hours later, and I said, look, I just booked the flight. I'm leaving tonight. I'll be there tomorrow at 7. I hope this shows the seller how serious I am. And I said, by the way, my daughter will be born next week. So I hope this convinces him how serious I am. So by the time I showed up, he said, look, the fact that you're here and you're having a kid next week. So he already had the LOI signed. So we were officially under contract. That was March 3rd. As we all know, March 14th, the lockdown came, and everything just started collapsing. I mean, there was so much fear. There was so much uncertainty. We had our due diligence, we had our inspection, and there's no way that one inspector could go from one unit touching everything to another unit, touching everything to another unit. Yeah. So everything just became very, very complicated at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. We were a little further down the road in our transaction. We were in 44 units in Albuquerque under contract. We were 30 grand into due diligence and loan fees and everything else.
Wow.
And legal fees.
Yeah. And those legal fees.
The day, I think it was the 14th or whenever the stock market crashed, was
14th.
That was our financing deadline. So it was our last cancellation. It was our last way out of the deal. And all of a sudden our financing source was making noise about, like, this may not work. This, the program all of a sudden that we were in and seemed certain about wasn't so certain. And so we had to bail out of that deal. And yeah, we had a good exit in that there was somebody on the sidelines that really wanted in, and he was actually willing to pay part of our due diligence and everything. So, so, but it was still disappointing, and it was still before we got our first big deal done, just like you. So it was like, it's kind of like, you have the, the final drive for the touchdown to win the game, and you come up short, sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like all this time and all this effort. I mean, my daughter was born on March 12th. So we were discharged from the hospital on March 14th, the day of the lockdown. And it was a very strange feeling because everybody was just keeping their distance. We couldn't have family over. I couldn't even go out to grab some coffee. And, we get home, we're happy, we're blessed that we have our daughter, but everything is collapsing. And then, like, as you know, lending became very challenging. Suddenly they were asking for reserves and we couldn't make the numbers work. And for us, as much as we tried, it was just one thing after another. I believe the seller was also in a lot of trouble because suddenly he said, I'll give you an extension, a 30-day extension, but you need to send me $100,000 non-refundable additional deposit, which, at that point, I think it's a no-brainer for anyone. I mean, we just decided, look, this is not for us. As much as it hurts to let this deal go, we have to. And of course, we got stuck with legal fees, travel fees, and all that stuff.
How large a deal? How many units was that?
That one was 40, I think it was 46 or 46, 47, something like that.
Yeah. It's amazing how similar our timelines were. I was in a 44 unit, you were in a 47 unit, and
44, 40, something like that. I forgot the exact amount, but very similar.
Yeah, that's interesting. So listeners, huge takeaway here. Mauricio, when he found this deal and wrote an offer on it, went to the deal and got his boots on the ground, showed the seller how serious he was, and also saw the property so that the seller had some assurance that he had seen the property and still wanted it after he had seen it, which is that's a big thing for a seller. But going to your market is huge, guys. Like, I can't tell you how big that is. Like, we didn't start doing big deals until we started going to our markets. And I've never done a deal that I didn't fly to see before we put under PSA. At least I think that's true. So now we'll put something under letter of intent and then go see it and then go PSA at that point. But I think, look, Corey Peterson, who was my mentor along the way, if he's going to write an offer, if he's going to write a letter of intent on something, he will go see it first, like, as a rule. So, and that just gives him such a competitive advantage,
and the brokers really like that. I mean, the guy told me, the broker said, look, we get calls on a weekly basis from California guys. They want to buy everything under the sun. They have all this money, et cetera, but they don't know the area. Yeah. And he told me that while I was there. So it made sense. At that point, I felt that I did have a huge advantage versus other folks who had spent who knows how much time and effort, but without seeing the properties themselves, they're just another phone call.
Yeah. So what market was that?
This was in Michigan, in central Michigan.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Those are good little markets. Some of those college towns, Kalamazoo.
That's where we ended up closing our first one this year in Kalamazoo, a year later. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like those markets along there. I really do. I think they're solid workforce level housing markets, and those are essentially recession proof in a lot of ways because, first of all, Kalamazoo is a college town, so you've got that demographic, but you've also got the workforce demographic. And look, in a recession, like, Class C assets, Class C apartments are in high demand.
Exactly.
And so, there's a element or a conversation to be had around recession resistance. I hate to use the word recession proof because it sounds too absolute, but there certainly is a resistance in this Class C asset. So, okay. So tell me all about the one you closed.
Yeah. So this one, I had a property manager for the first one, and we stayed in touch. I stayed in touch with everyone, property manager, lender, nice. Insurance person, and so forth. So the property manager told me, look, there's a guy who owns a couple thousand units here. I want to introduce you directly. So I had a conversation with this gentleman. I started submitting offers for his properties, and I just got outbid on all of them. This happened for about 6 or 7 months. And one day, as I was driving home from a real estate appointment, I get a text message from the guy himself. And he said, hey, this one is falling out of escrow. Are you still interested? I immediately contacted my friends. We did the numbers. We sent an LOI that night, and we were able to get that property under contract. That was 41 units in Kalamazoo.
Awesome.
And you mentioned Class C. I just wanted to add, our property is, I believe, 6 or 7 miles away from the Pfizer facility. Back in December, where the vaccines were rolling out. I'm not sure if you saw on the news the videos of people waving with billboards and stuff like that, like waving at the drivers. So that's about 6 or 7 miles from our property. So I had a friend who said, yeah, but that's Class C. You don't have any scientists living in that building. And I said, you're probably right, but there's drivers, there's cooks, there's maintenance. I mean, you name it. One industry can feed Class A, B, and C, one big company itself.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you know, a couple things to highlight. Number one, you stayed in the market. So even though that deal didn't work out, the first one, you stayed there, you stayed in touch with everybody. You learned more and more about the market by being there and by continuing to talk to people. And then you met a big fish by just talking to people. Look, this is what doing a deep dive on a market is, guys. Like, this is what you do to really get into a market, and it takes time. It's not a one and done thing. It takes time. It takes going there. It takes going to the market. The other thing that I want to highlight that you did is you acted immediately when given the opportunity on that deal. You crunched the numbers right away. You wrote the LOI that night, and you know, you were under LOI in a few hours, right? Sounds like.
Yeah, about a day or so after. But the reason we were able to do that, Tate, is because we knew the market well. So when we saw the property, we had already talked to a property manager about CapEx, about value add. We already had quotes from the lender on that size property in that particular market. Because we already had that information, it was really easy for us to pull the trigger. And at the time also, I didn't have to fly there anymore because I started networking. I started getting on Zoom calls and meeting potential partners. And I was very blessed to find a partner who lives in Michigan. So now that gave me a little bit of an advantage, because now I'm not the California guy who doesn't know the area. Now I have a solid partner who is local, who can be there in a couple of hours.
That's awesome. So, and you met that partner in a Zoom meetup?
Yes, that's right. It was on Brian Briscoe's call on Fridays. And one of my friends was on the call, and he said, yeah, we're trying to get a property in Michigan. And when he mentioned the city, he said, I live like 10 minutes away from there, and we need to talk. And we started underwriting deals together via Zoom, and started getting to know each other to make sure that we could trust each other, to make sure that we were not trying to cut corners. Because when, and you know this very well, you send somebody a deal and they think it's great, and maybe it's not great. So I needed to find someone that had the same conservative mentality with numbers, and we did.
That's so cool. And that particular meetup group is magical, in my opinion. There's like so many high level heavy hitters in that group. And if somebody in that group doesn't have what you need, they're going to know where to tell you to go to find
exactly it. They'll point you in the right direction. There's quite a few good meetups. Julie Peterson has a good one also on Tuesdays. There's Yona Wise has another one. I mean, there's quite a few. And I've mentioned this to a few people that are looking to get started. And I've told them, even people that I met at conferences, that you need to network. There's 4 or 5 good meetups every week, and I don't see them there. And I keep wondering, like, you said you wanted to do this, but I don't really see you there. Even one a week would be a good way to get started.
They're game changing. Again, like they're very similar to these national conferences in a lot of ways, because you get face to face with people, even though it's virtual. Brian does a great job with his breakout rooms, and you get to talk to 2, 3, maybe 4 people at a time. And by the way, I want to mention our meetup is the 3rd Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And so listeners, if you would like a list of meetups email me at tate@glequitygroup.com, and I will send you a list of these meetups and links to them.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and here's the deal. Like, this is one of the blessings of COVID, in my opinion, for us in this industry, is when I started my meetup, it was November of 2019, and we had planned, we called it the Salt Lake City Multifamily Meetup because it was going to be a local multifamily meetup. And we had no thought of doing it virtually and having the ability to literally have anybody on the planet be involved. Well, COVID happened. We go virtual. We start this thing, and we really put a lot of energy into it. We have super great guests, including Brian was one of them, and Tim Bratz, and a number of other just high level guests. And we get spoiled by the ease and the efficiency of the virtual meetup. So now we're trying to kind of switch gears back to doing the in-person and virtual. And we're trying to figure all that out. It's a little bit of a technology puzzle, but
it feels great when you see someone that you've met on Zoom for so many months, and you finally get to see them in person. It's great. We did Dealmaker Live 2020 virtual. And at this time, we had lost our first deal. We weren't sure how to do it again, because I couldn't fly out there. I had a newborn. There was no protection for me to get on a plane or so forth. So we got the list of all the attendees at the Dealmaker Live, and my wife sent out calendar invitations to everyone. And she said, look, we have to find business partners. You're going to be on the phone and you're going to talk to all these people, and hopefully we can find a partner. And I've mentioned this before. I was driving on a Sunday to appointments, and my phone kept ringing, and I kept seeing these Calendly things and notifications. And I called my wife and I said, oh, this is great. There's a few people that want to talk to us. How many appointments do we have? 2 or 3? And she said, we have 16 so far.
Wow.
For that week. And I remember
That's awesome.
telling her 16, I have stuff to do, but it ended up being 22 that week. It ended up being a total, a little over 60 people that we did 30 minutes face-to-face, virtual face-to-face, until we found the partners that we have now.
Mm-hmm. Were any of those face-to-face, did any of them become investors or anything go that way? Or
yes, we have, I believe, 1 or 2 people that became investors. Nice. And we developed a lot of great friendships, people that we still talk to, that we see on social media. I think that's what I love about this business, that people are very genuine, and people are very, it's a different level of people that you run into. Everyone is trying to become a better person. Everyone is somehow learning, growing, self-development. Yeah. So I think the biggest takeaway was that we made a lot of good friends.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, good job. That's networking, guys, right there. And look, Mauricio is getting it done as a result of networking. As these Zoom calls are free. Like,
exactly.
Brian doesn't want a dime. All he cares about is that everybody in the group is doing business and it is growing and like meeting people and learning. That's our commitment with my meetup group. Okay, so talk to me about next steps for you. And like you closed that thing in March. First of all, how's that going? How's that property going for you right now?
Oh, it's going great. It's incredible that everything that you put in numbers is becoming a reality, and I love it. The only challenge that we have is with the shortage of workers for some repairs, but we got the roof completed. Our vacancies are a lot lower than we projected. I mean, overall, the property is performing great. We already did our first distributions this month. Last month.
Nice. That's great. Good for you. So, so what's happened since then, as far as other deals and deal finding and that sort of thing?
We were approached by a local group here in LA, and they were doing some smaller multifamily, but the returns were pretty high up there. I mean, it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of returns. And we decided to invest passively. I've heard you mention that before. And I've heard Camila also mention that you have to invest passively first.
Yep.
And we were invited to co-GP with them. So we closed on 2 smaller deals back in August and July of this year. So for the next few months, we will be managing those projects. I'm going to one of them tomorrow, getting bids and all that stuff, making sure everything goes well. We have local investors. We also plan on doing a local meetup. We want to do a limo bus and gather everyone together on a Sunday and just drive around LA looking at the smaller multifamily opportunities that are available.
Very cool. So when you say smaller, what size are you talking?
4, 5, 7, 8. The largest one that we have here is 8. I mean, we put a bid on one that was 12, but we got outbid. But these properties have it comes with a lot of work, but there's a lot of rewards,
a lot of upside. Yeah.
Yes.
Look, guys, as you know, I'm all about more unit count, the bigger the better. And in general, what we found in this space is that, ironically, the bigger the deal, the easier it is to get done. And especially when you get into needing equity of like $5 million and more, right? So this kind of realm of investing that Mauricio is talking about is completely valid way to go too. In my opinion, as long as you stay commercial and you stay out of the 4 units and lower. So stay with 5 units and higher and take a look at those deals, those 9 units, 12 units, because you can structure those deals totally differently where you're not going to syndicate them. You're not going to necessarily, well, you might, but you don't necessarily have to. And you can have quite a bit more of the pie on these smaller deals. And if you go back and listen to my episode with David Toupin, he talks quite a bit about this. He was all about the big unit count and realized when he looked back on all of his deals that went full cycle that he was doing just as well and sometimes better on his smaller deals than he was on his bigger deals. And so for him, it's become all about balance sheet, right? And improving your balance sheet. And you can do that with the 9s and the 12s and the 20s. And so I think it's cool. And you're doing it in your backyard, which is what you know. So that's super important. And I commend you on that.
It makes it easier for our local investors. And just to clarify and to vouch what you said, the 4 units that we have, it's we just closed it in Hollywood. It's about a half a mile away from Paramount Studios in a
nice
top location. But we got 4 because we were authorized to build 2 additional units.
Oh, cool.
So we will turn it into 6. So that's the play. We don't want to stay in the triplex, 4plex residential, because then the comps are against other residential comps. So we're looking to stay in commercial. So it's exactly what you said. As long as it's commercial and there's plenty of meat on the bones, I think it's worth it. It's in our backyard. I mean, there's a certain pride for people to when they invest here or when they look at properties here, because there's a housing shortage. So they think, okay, well, first of all, we get to make the city a little bit prettier. We bring affordable housing and we make some money.
Yep. Love it. So what's the future hold for Mauricio and your team?
Yeah, so right now we are looking at repositioning these properties, these smaller ones. We want, because one of these is a short term deal. It's about a year to a year and a half.
Yep.
We at this point we want to keep growing in Michigan, where we have our one property. We'd like to expand to a couple of other markets, but we've also been approached by a few people that want us to do joint ventures here in LA, because they think, okay, you only need about $500,000 or 800 to go full cycle on one of these, and a lot of people have that in equity in their properties. So instead of putting $50,000, they want to take half the pie and give us the other half and have us do all the work. So we're still putting everything together to see if that's something that's feasible. If it is, I mean, that might be a good route for us. At the same time as we're looking for to grow in our existing Kalamazoo market.
Cool. So what do you do kind of on an ongoing basis in Kalamazoo and in Michigan to kind of keep the deal flow coming in, and like what do you do with your brokers and property managers? How do you keep your foot in the door there?
The property manager is key. We talk to him a lot. I mean, my wife does the asset management, so she talks to him about all the numbers and all the not so fun stuff. I get to talk to him about deals, about the market. I mean, this guy is so very well connected at anything that's out there. He's letting us know. And also the attorney that I have, he has some really good connections as well. So the attorney has been sending me some stuff. It hasn't worked out, but he has been sending me some stuff. So it's we just keep in communication with the people that we already know, and hoping that one of these deals will pan out so we can pull the trigger.
I love it. So that property managers, dude, that sounds like a gold mine. Like,
oh yeah,
his knowledge in the market and whatnot.
Yes, I mean, I've talked to him about other deals, and he's very blunt when he says when a deal doesn't work, he'll tell you specifically that it doesn't work, and he'll say it in the most direct way possible. But when there is possibility, I mean, he puts everything, and he puts like silver plate, everything, all the numbers, everything that you need to know. And the same thing with the lender and our attorney. I mean, we have good people. I mean, if people know that you're genuinely working hard and you're not just wasting their time, I think people are willing to help a lot more.
That's so that right there is key, guys. Like, you know, when brokers are bringing you stuff and bringing you deals, dig into the deal and underwrite it and show them that you're digging in and working on it and that you're taking it really seriously, and they'll take you seriously. And and that's key. I mean, this is all relationships right now, what we're talking about. Broker relations.
One other thing, last thing that I wanted to add is when I met my lender, I kept calling him. A friend of mine gave me a number, and he said, look, this is a great lender in Michigan. I kept calling almost on a daily basis. One day I get a call back, and he says, hey, Mauricio, sorry, I've heard your messages. I'm at a conference in San Diego. That's why I haven't called you back. And I said, I'm only 2.5 hours away. Can I meet? Can you give me 5 minutes of your time? I just want to have some coffee with you tomorrow during your break. So that 5 minutes turned into about an hour and a half meeting. When I went to meet him, I had all of our finances from our friends in writing. I wanted to show him that your time is, I mean, I'm not here to waste your time. This is what we have. These are our assets. This is the income. This is the real property that we have. This is how much we can potentially purchase and how much we can secure on a loan. So that, again, to make sure that he wasn't wasting his time.
That's so smart. Wow. That's powerful, guys. Like, that moves the needle right there. And it changes the conversation for the broker, because these brokers, everybody's trying to solve the same problem with these brokers. They get lots and lots of calls, especially in good markets. They're getting 10 calls a day. So how do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself and stand out in their eyes, and then have them bring you opportunities eventually? And that is a really good way of doing it. Show them whatever you can. Like, if you can show them proof of funds, show them pre-approval letters, show SREOs and personal financial statements. Like, if it helps your cause, if it helps your case, it's going to really do good things for you. So I think that's a really smart approach, Mauricio.
Thanks. I mean, it worked for us. At the end of the day, we were trying to get agency debt, and it couldn't go that route. So we ended up doing a recourse loan. But the lender already knew that we could, because he had already seen our finances since we met the first time.
Right. Well, I would encourage you, and look, we're peers. We're basically kind of running the same race here. And when we closed on a lot of doors this year, but I would encourage you to really capitalize on what you already have going on there in Southern Michigan. It sounds like you already are doing this and already have this on your radar, but that those relationships are priceless. And that property manager is a deal source for you. And you've got everything in place there to duplicate what you've already done. You've got market knowledge now. You've got resources in the way of contractors and whatnot. So, and then the deeper you get into a market, the more of a expert you become, and the easier it all gets.
That's right.
Yeah, law of the first deal.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm definitely looking forward to that, to grow in that market. We love it. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I looked at a deal and wherever the Kellogg's factory is, what's the there's a town where Kellogg's is, and I
don't remember the name.
Battle Creek.
Battle Creek. Yeah. I've seen a few there too.
I looked at an apartment asset there to purchase, and it was one of the first times I ever flew to see a property, and we were going to write an offer on it, and I flew into Detroit and rented a car and drove out there. And
similar stories, man.
yeah, very similar stories for sure. So, Mauricio, on your journey here along the way, I know that conferences have been great for you. I know the networking's been really key. Have there been books or authors or podcasts or just really influential people for you that have helped you help your business along the way?
Yes, absolutely. I think podcasts have been it's something that I started with. And I made it a goal, especially when my wife started listening to them. We made it a goal to listen to at least 3 a week. And when I have a lot of downtime and I'm driving, I listen to a lot myself, including obviously yours. And I listen to podcasts from people that I know, which I like it, or people that we have common friends.
Yeah.
Of course, like Brian Briscoe, Julie Hawley, and et cetera, right? But those always help, because if you look at the news and all that stuff, I mean, there's so much craziness going on, and I need something that brings me back to multifamily. And podcast is always, no matter what episode I listen to, it always brings me back to that mentality. And I love it. I would recommend that a lot. And as far as books, there's one book by a good friend of mine, Tom Hamill, The Life You're Meant to Lead. That book, I've read it a couple of times. I love it.
What was the author's name? Tom
Hamill.
Hammel.
Yes. The Life You're Meant to Lead. I have it back there.
That's a new one for me. Yeah.
It's a really good book. He's a good author. He's a youth pastor. It's great. His approach is really, really helpful.
That's excellent. Cool. I'll check that one out. Are you an audiobook guy?
Yes. I don't really read manually too much, because a lot of the stuff that I listen to is when I'm driving.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. If I can get it on audio, I'm so much more likely to consume it than sit down with a book. I will say, and I'll just share this with you guys, all of you guys, just finished this book called Vivid Vision. And if on the YouTube channel, you can see I'm holding up the cover, but Cameron Herold, Herold. This is a game changer. This is like the Vivid Vision basically replaces your mission statement, your vision statement. And instead of having a single sentence or a few sentences, your Vivid Vision is like a 5 or a 6 page document that basically just blows your business up. Like it tells you, it basically describes your business, who you are, what you do, why you do it, how you do it, all that stuff. But really does it from a 3-year perspective out. So you're creating what you're going to be in 3 years.
Wow. That's good. Thanks for sharing. I'll definitely look into that one. Vivid Vision.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I see your mug back there. It says Dog Dad on it. You're a guy after my own heart.
Yeah, my wife had that made. I love it. My dogs are. I mean, we have our daughter. We have our dogs. I mean, it's a good life. Everything, it depends on how you see it. Glass half full, glass half empty. And I take my dogs for a walk almost every day, trying to take them at 5:30 in the morning, sometimes twice a day. So they're pretty spoiled, pretty happy.
What else do you like to do for fun?
You know what we started doing recently, and I didn't think I would like it as much because I see people doing it and I thought it was boring, is gardening. And
Oh, cool.
I never thought I would like that. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
we love going to the beach, we love being outdoors, but we can't really do that too much now. But aside from that, something that we wanted to look into doing, being home, was gardening. A friend of mine suggested it, and we're liking it, enjoying it a lot more than we expected. We're cleaning the plants. Our daughter's playing in the backyard. We love it.
I love gardening too. And unfortunately, the last 3 years, I've just been too busy to get my garden going. It's like you go back and look at my garden and the weeds are 2 feet tall, unfortunately. But that's really cool. I think there's just a lot of goodness in gardening in general.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know. I think it's therapeutic. I
it
like
is
it.
therapeutic. Yeah, that's well said for sure. I would agree with that. Well, Mauricio, any last words of wisdom for our listeners that are kind of looking at you and going, wow, I want to be where he is in 6 months or a year? Like, what would you have to say to them?
The main thing would be to start networking. I started doing everything on my own, and it can be a very lonely road.
Yeah.
And it can be very frustrating. But when I started networking, and the first call that I attended was Brian Briscoe. I was on one of the first calls that he did. When I connected with people that were having the same struggles that I was having, it was very refreshing because we were there to support each other. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if you start networking, I would say don't try the approach of I'll do one call and I'll find a partner or I'll find a deal. This takes months.
Yep.
You have to earn each other's trust. If you at least put 1 or 2 hours aside a week and attend at least 2 calls a week, your mentality and your momentum will be different 2 or 3 months down the line.
Absolutely. Your network will be different. Your relationships
Oh,
will be
yes.
different. Your level of knowledge will be different.
Absolutely.
If you're out seeking that out. Yeah. That's well said. So networking, guys. So again, if you want a list of virtual meetup groups from me, networking groups, email me at tate@glequitygroup.com. I'm happy to email that out to you. So Mauricio, again, best way to reach you is your website again. Would you just again say that for the listeners?
Yes, it's brickstoneinvestmentgroup.com. And you can also find me on social media, Facebook or Instagram, Mauricio Roque.
And you'll probably see him in Brian Briscoe's meetup group and
most likely. Oh yeah. I try not to. Sometimes I miss them because of work, but I try not to. I try to attend at least 2 or 3 a week.
Do you have, I'm curious, do you have thoughts of exiting being a realtor or I mean, I can tell that you love it. I can tell it's a jam for you. Is there an end game with that?
Not really. I really like what I do. I enjoy, I mean, right now I'm selling a property that I help my clients buy it, and I see how much they're growing because of this property. And I really enjoy that. But I would like to do it with referrals alone versus chasing the business like every realtor. Doing all the marketing, open houses, all that stuff. If I could work with referrals, it doesn't matter if they're $200,000 or $800,000 purchase. I really enjoy it, and I want to continue doing it, but on I would say on a referral basis.
Yeah, on your own terms and doing it for the right, doing it because you like doing it, and you don't have to depend on it necessarily. So
exactly, very well said.
Yeah. And we're all about the financial freedom here and the financial independence. And that's why we love this asset class as much as we do. So awesome, Mauricio. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person. I'm hoping that I'll get to the Joe Fairless show, so to speak, in Denver, the best ever conference. Again, I have no affiliation, but these are great conferences, guys. And like, really, if you want to take that step, if you're like ready to really ramp this up and rev up your business and get things going, like, it's about the best thing you can do, in my opinion. There's other good things to do, but in networking is, get good at that. Like, big takeaway from this episode, just get really good at networking and find out the good strategic places to be when it comes to that. So Mauricio, this has been awesome, man. Appreciate you so much.
It's been great. Class 2019, right? Dealmaker Live. Perfect. Right. Well, I look forward to meeting you hopefully at Joe Fairless event.
Yes, absolutely. And listeners, I hope to meet you all at one of these events someday. You can always book a Zoom appointment with me on the website, investwithgreenlight.com. But until we get a chance to meet, Mauricio, once again, thank you. Appreciate you. And listeners, thanks again for listening to another episode of The Apartment Guys.
Thanks for listening to The Apartment Guys with Tate Siemer. Tate and friends are grateful to have you as a loyal listener. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, rate, review, and share with friends on your Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or any other podcast platform. Also, check out Tate's YouTube channel for videos of many of these episodes and more. Until next time, take massive action steps and rock on.